Item number 19 on page 11.
Right.
The minister says we have reduced debt to GDP has declined.
Right.
From 73% at the end of December 2016 to 68.6% at the end of September 2017. At the end of September, let's ask the question, how do you calculate these two variables? End year GDP, debt to GDP, is calculated based on actual or realized GDP, whilst the debt is actual or total debt to the end of the year. Mid-year GDP is the GDP you budgeted at the beginning of the year.
At the beginning of the year.
So whether it is growing or it is declining, it is not necessary here. Your debt in the middle of the year is not the debt up to the end of the year. So where is the calculation of 68.6%? That is a cooked figure. And I'm asking the question for the Minister of Finance,
right,
to tell us what is our total debt position. If you convert this 68.8%,
right,
we will get a GDP that is around 200 billion. So he should not add our debt for, he borrowed in October. Right. He didn't say he doesn't know what he borrowed. He borrowed in November, and he knows what he will borrow in December. He should add them and recalculate our debt to GDP, and we'll be roaming at 76%. Right. Why will the minister consciously
So you think the minister has?
I am not thinking. This is what is
dishonest with.
No, what are you seeing? That's a dishonesty. That is dishonesty. We can't compare mid-year debt deficit. Debt to GDP with end year. You are comparing bananas with mangoes, and it's never done. Only a few days ago, when we were inside there, I raised this issue about Dr. Baumia's analysis in July.
Right.
And why are they not telling us the projection to the end of the year?
Yeah.
Because they know how much they have borrowed. So why are we dealing with?
So you think the projections to close of year,
we will be roaming over 75% of GDP, and that is what he doesn't want to tell you.
Interesting.
Do you know Ghana's total debt in deficit in nominal? As he spoke, we don't even know our deficit in nominal. So that if I pick the nominal and say you close at 4.5%, I can calculate and get our GDP. Do you know it? If I know our debt, I can calculate and expose him. We don't know it.
Right.
At the end of the day, he's using a deficit as at June. So from July, August, September to December, we have not spent.
Honorable Adongo, I'll come back to you. We'll take a quick break, and we're live at the Parliament House trying to understand from some members of Parliament the issues that have been raised by the Finance Minister in the presentation of the Budget and Economic Management Policy Framework for 2018. Honorable, I am told I'm running out of time, and so that will be all. But we'll definitely follow up with you and the minority on your views.
You guys have to do a critical review of this document.
Definitely.
It defies all economic
Definitely.
thinking.
We are going to do that together with you, so we can educate.
That you can use to
analyze
the
Ghanaian public.
That's a good document.
Honorable, thank you very much.
Well, welcome. You're live here at our Platinum Studios, GH1 TV. You're still watching the live coverage of the 2018 Ejuma budget that was just delivered by the Finance Minister. My colleague Patrick Stevenson has been speaking to some of the members of Parliament after the budget was read, and interesting comments over there. But I'm going to go straight to the messages that you have been sending. This one is from Precious from Malam, and he says, this is indeed Wahala and 419 budget. We are waiting for the reduction in electricity tariff because we are really suffering. Okay, this one is from Kobe Dawson from Achimota, and he says, we hope this Ejuma budget will create jobs for the unemployed graduates. 100,000 graduates to be employed in 2018. Oh, what a loving and caring government. Nana Twaso from the same person. This one says, hello, how are you? And this is Mamle from Sierra Leone. Okay. Honorable, God bless you for your good work. We are blessed to have you as our MP. Bulgar people like it. I'm sure that's for Honorable Adongo over there. And we are still taking in your messages. Do send us your messages on our WhatsApp line 0503203141. This one says, the budget is nothing but old rhetoric to deceive. This government is not serious. No single infrastructure mentioned in the budget. I'm not sure, but the minister said a number of roads will be constructed and steel bridges and all that. So I don't know if you really listened. This one says, please, I didn't hear anything about teachers and nurses' arrests. So we will be bringing you more discussions. We'll be going to Parliament, back to Parliament, to take more the conversations or interviews with the MPs. So do stay tuned. All your questions will be answered. Abdul Janiv Mankarigu says, minority, the talking will not have solved the problem, but facing the reality of the true underground. Minority in Parliament thus does not have Ghana at their heart at all. MPP government is not like their previous corrupt government. Next year budget will be good news to every Ghanaian because jobs will be available to all the jobless people in this country. Minority are in serious confusion. By Abdul. Thank you very much. Keep your messages coming in. We have so many of them. Okay, this one from Angelo from Somanya, and he says, the promises has choked this current administration and we are tired of listening to more of it. All we want is the implementation. Enough of flattering promises. We will be taking more of your messages. Do send them on our social media platforms at GH1 TV on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and our WhatsApp number that is on your screens right now. This one says the president needs to supply social amenities to some villages. I'm sure all of those things will be addressed and will be in the budget, or were in the budget if you listen to. We'll be still taking some of your messages. Do send them in on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our WhatsApp number that is scrolling on your screen right now. I am suspecting this budget to be perfect. This was the budget I have been waiting for. Wow, what a budget. Nana and his ministers. Well done. Please do try to tell us where you're sending in your messages from. It will be easier. The president needs to supply social amenities to some villages. Okay, we took that already, but keep sending in your messages. For me, the major problem of Ghana is unemployment. We need jobs. That's what I want to hear. I'm sure there are about 15 million Ghanaians unemployed out of the 25 million. Boys are bro. This is from Isaac Osei from La Paz in Accra. And Isaac sends that message so many times. That's to reiterate the need for jobs in the country. Hello, GH1 from Landlord Boga. According to Ghana's Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, the theme for the 2018 budget is putting Ghana back to work. Ha ha ha. Are they not the same people who said Ghana is working again? Confused government. Well, we'll be coming back to take more of your messages. But now let's cross over to Patrick Stevenson, who will be bringing us more updates and exclusive interviews from Parliament.
Broadly or otherwise, with the sort of projections and predictions that the Finance Ministry looks to attain for the year 2018. Honorable Tufosi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So your initial reactions to the presentation you saw?
Let me say that this is a bad product that has been deceptively packaged.
Right.
Very bad product indeed.
Why would you say it's a bad product?
I say this because obviously if you look at the budget carefully, it is empty. Very empty. Capital expenditure is only 1.4% of GDP. Capital expenditure, 1.4% of GDP. Where are we going at this country? Where is Ghana heading to? I am surprised. The very first statement coming from the minister responsible for finance, he said that they have turned around the economy. Turned around the economy. I was thinking that an economy that has turned around, you would have gone ahead to remove certain sunset clauses. Right. To remove the temporary taxes, but he rather decided to extend it. Is this an economy that has been turned around? We made a clear point that the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy, as the name would tell you, was introduced in 2013 when the economy experienced some setbacks.
Right.
For the purposes of stabilizing the economy and turning it around.
Right.
Obviously, there was a sunset clause then, and for your information, I brought it to Parliament. There were sunset clauses in the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy that said that by December 2018,
right.
2017, it should go away.
Right.
What are we saying?
So your expectations are that by close of year, in this
so I
particular
was
budget,
expecting, if indeed you've turned around the economy, the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy shouldn't have been extended.
Right.
If indeed you have turned around the economy, the special import levy shouldn't have been extended. Shouldn't have been extended for no reason. Okay, let me make one important point here. We are in this country. Our brothers and sisters who are importers are complaining. Go to Abosokai, go to the market women. They are saying that the duty levels, and as a result of the new paperless system, do you know what the paperless system has done? They have all of a sudden changed the valuation of goods and services that are already in the CS code. Okay. So what this has done is that they have gone through the back door to impose taxes on imports. So I was of the opinion that now that the sunset clause in the existing special import levy is clear that all these taxes will have to be removed, I was of the view that the government would have given some relief to the ordinary Ghanaian. That will grow the economy, only for them to come and tell us today that they are extending it. I'm not happy about it. I think it is not in a good faith. We have a duty to the people of this country to ensure that anytime we introduce a tax that is temporal, we obey or we go by it. For us doing a quick U-turn without giving reasons, but rather saying that the economy has turned around, and for that matter, those taxes has now become a temporary tax, I disagree with that.
I'll come back to you. Now, we have also been joined here by Professor Kwachim of the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Prof, thank you very much for joining us. What are your reactions? What are your reactions generally to the presentation? Also, given the fact that what expectations were?
I was expecting the minister to indicate that they're going to continue with the consolidation process that's going on. And he did that. You know what has happened this year is that government did not generate enough revenue, but they've be able to keep to their expenditure, so they have operated within the budget deficit. You know, which is good, although it is hurting the economy in other ways. And they said that he's going to continue with the fiscal consolidation process. But you know, an important plank of that is revenue generation. Revenue generation. So again, I was expecting the minister to indicate innovative new ways of generating revenue, because this year they didn't do well. We have come out, Institute for Fiscal Studies, with a list of revenue generating measures that we think government should consider. The minister mentioned some of them. The informal sector, although in some areas it does not provide enough detail, because he said this is just the budget highlights. But the informal sector, there's a lot that has to be done there. Leveraging on new modern technologies. Okay. Now we also raised the issue of concessions and incentives in the mining sector, the oil and gas sector, free zones sector, and we suggested that government can go back and look at all those incentives and concessions and see those which they can renegotiate downwards. We also raised the issue of the exemptions, and he also mentioned it. Because this year they said they were going to make savings of 1 billion by reducing the exemptions. I don't think, he didn't say how much they realized in terms of that, but I don't think they came anywhere near that. So they need to go back and also look at
those numbers.
Yeah,
but they make a projection in revenue of about 51 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes.
They missed the target by last year.
Yes.
Do you think, in your expert opinion, that this 51 billion they can raise it, given the fact that you have already mentioned that there are implications on the expenditure side, given an economy that has a large government spending multiplier?
So last year, when they came out with their revenue projection, we said that it was too ambitious. You know, the 33.5% increase that they were projecting. Because even if you relate it to the projected growth in nominal income, which most taxes are related to, nominal income was going to grow by just 20%. You get me? So if most of your taxes are related to that, on the basis of that alone, we said it was overambitious, and we were vindicated. This year too is still on the high side, but again, it depends on whether they are going to be able to implement all those measures that he has said they will implement.
Right.
And then maybe this year they will also say that some of the measures were put in place after some delay. Okay, so next year is going to be a full year. So you will say that you will give them the benefit of the doubt, even though it's still on the high side, the revenue projection.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point, and I will agree with him that you can see the fact that the government is taking to fiscal consolidation.
Right.
But you see, the basic question I ask myself is how steep is the fiscal consolidation, and is it really going to achieve the intended purpose? Because we have here IMF saying that the fiscal deficit is supposed to be 3.8 for 2018, and the minister is announcing 4.5. You see, what is the two? Ghana is on an IMF program. The target in IMF program says you should do 3.8, and you are announcing 4.5.
Right.
So what are we communicating to the market? Inconsistency.
Right.
Another key point. Dr. Kwachin made a point that in as much as the deficit, the revenue is underperforming, they were able to stay within the expenditure. But let me caution, and it's important we make this caution statement. Let us not always look at cash deficit. It's important for us to look at deficit on commitment basis. Are they accumulating arrests?
Right.
What is the volume and the quantum of arrests that they are accumulating? What is the impact for the general economy? Until we ascertain that, we cannot give them credit for that because it's detrimental to the economic growth in this country. Another important point that we should make, we should look at it carefully. The state made a clear point that obviously the revenue underperformed by 9.3% to GDP.
Right.
9.3% to GDP is so big. I think it's one of the worst in the history of this country, underperformance. Let me say, and I'm saying this on authority, it is not because they are failing to collect the revenue. It is because it was overly projected.
Okay.
It was overly projected. Okay. I thought they would have learned from this. But what are we seeing? Another over-projection. So the budget deficit, as we are talking about, is dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. It's there. Another over-projection. So what are we saying? This is the point. This is the point I want to make consistently. This is the mistake the state is making.
Honorable Atufoso, you indicated that you are not sleeping tonight. You are going to dig into this and share your insights with us, and so we'll continue to follow up with you to get other perspectives on the presentation that the Finance Minister has made today. Thank you very much.
More detail also. I mean, when the entire budget
itself is presented,
we'll be able to
know exactly what this
analysis of.
Anyway, I want to thank you both, Professor Pachi and then Honorable Atufoso, for sharing these insights with us. Now, we are live from Parliament House. We have been speaking to some members of Parliament and some observers of the economy who have been looking at this economy from afar to understand exactly the intricacies of what the Finance Minister has said and the policy propositions that we are to expect for the 2018 fiscal year. And as we have been saying, some of the macroeconomic targets that the government has put across, a deficit that is projected at about 10 billion, a revenue estimation of 51 billion, and an expenditure broadly projected to sit around 62 billion Ghana cedis. And the concerns that has been raised by some observers is that the government made projections last year. Well, these targets were missed by about 9.6%, and here we are making some more projections on further revenue expansions, and so they're not too sure the ability of the government to raise these required revenues to prosecute its development agenda. There's been some rather interesting programs as well that have been mentioned by government. If you operate within the industrial sector of the economy, well, some propositions have been made to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to, as it were, revise downwards some of the tariffs or taxes that you have on the prices that are paid for electricity. Well, there appears to be a dividing view on the House on this particular one, because the assumption is that if the PURC takes a different objection or a different position to what government is going to provide to them, well, then these gains typically will not be accruing as you would expect. There's also a proposition on the management of the economy for the establishment of the National Development Bank. And I'm sure in the course of the engagement, we will find some members of the House and some other experts with an understanding of the operations of the financial industry and the banking sector who will make us understand whether or not this is a viable strategy given the existing challenges that we have within the Ghanaian and so these are some of the issues that we will be following up and be sharing with you. We have been joined by two members of parliament. Here we have the honorable member for Okai-Kwe North, if I'm right. And then we have, and so we'll be throwing a few questions to them to understand what their views and perspectives about the presentation that the finance minister has made. Your initial reactions and initial thoughts.
My initial reactions to the 2018 budget is that it's a build on what we did in 2017. In 2017, we had come to tell Ghanaians that we're sowing seeds for growth. Now that we've been able to stabilize an economy or an ailing economy, we are ready to take off. You see, for us to actually have or put in perspective what is going to happen in 2018, let's remember where we have come from. We have come from an economy which was virtually on its knees. Today, the economy is being stabilized. So it is an opportunity for us to grow. Hence, our target on jobs, and more jobs.
So for you, it is jobs, and more jobs.
That's it.
I think I heard the finance minister say that there was going to be a recruitment of 100,000 national service personnel. Are these the kind of jobs you're talking about, and how sustainable are these jobs for the long term?
This is a policy that has come to stay. And he mentioned a nation builder's corps. You see, in the past, we've had dedicated young people do specific jobs within different sectors to help support whatever happens in those sectors. And that is what we are aiming at doing. We didn't just mention a policy, we mentioned a policy together with its budget. So it means that we know what we're doing. Look out for this particular one. That is going to create 100,000 jobs within 2018. In the past, we've heard figures being bangled about. At one time, we even had jobs, about 1 million jobs being created in a particular sector, which never was. They were all phantom jobs. Watch the real thing happen. Last time when we promised Ghanaians that we were going to implement the free SHS, they were doubting Thomases. They said we couldn't do it, we have done it. When we told them we were going to implement the nurses and teachers allowance, they doubted. Now we have done it. Same with this policy. We have said it today. I know people will be doubting it. 2 days ago, we had our people on our brothers on the minority side shouting all over the place, taxes on mobile money and all that. They should take their time. They should listen to what we have and come along with us so we can build Ghana together.
Okay, so I'll come back to you, but let me go to the minority spokesperson on agriculture, Honorable Opoku. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Do you agree with some of the propositions that he has made, particularly when you speak for agriculture, right? And I know they've talked about planting for food and jobs. How do you assess the budget within the context of some of these social intervention programs?
No, in the first place, let me indicate that in this budget, the finance minister admitted that last year's targets, revenue targets, were unrealistic. Unrealistic to the extent that the shortfall is so huge that the minister decided not to mention the shortfall in nominal terms. You understand?
Right.
Because it is in excess of 3 billion Ghana cedis, which has not happened. It doesn't happen. Right. Excess of 3 billion Ghana cedis. So government could not execute all the projects enumerated in the previous budget. Right. That is why almost everything mentioned in the last year's budget is being rolled out. Right. It's being continued now because there was no financial commitment because the money was not there.
Right.
Now, what we are hearing is
but you know, he makes us understand that something like planting food for jobs, for example, they have rolled that out. They have rolled that out. He talks about free senior high school that has equally been rolled out. And here we are talking about agriculture, for example, and I'm narrowing you specifically to agri.
I will come to agri. But before I do so,
right.
He raised an issue about the implementation of the free.
Let him finish. This is going to be very heated, but let him respond, and I will come back.
When he was speaking, I did not interject, and I expect him to do same.
Agreed.
Look, the implementation of the free SHS has taken off.
Right.
When we were debating the budget, we drew the attention to the fact that the allocation to the free education in the 2017 budget was inadequate.
Right.
And they said it was enough to take care for them for a year.
Right.
Now they are in their 8th week and they have only released only 20% of the entire budget for one term. The 20% is able to take care of the students for just 3 weeks in school. But now they are in the 8th week.
But
how they surviving?
So you're talking about sustainable financing for free senior.
So how they surviving?
In this particular budget,
the problem is that
again makes reference. He makes reference to the establishment of a voluntary education fund. Don't you think some of these initiatives will cushion the implementation of the program?
No, what I'm saying now is that our children are, as you speak, they are in school.
Right.
How are they surviving for the 5 weeks that they have not been given money to be fed? That is the challenge. Back to the agricultural sector. You asked the question, I've not answered, and you are run away.
Okay, that's fine.
On the agricultural front, they said that last year we had 969,000 metric tons of cocoa. And indeed, our projection last year was 850,000. We ended up exceeding our projection to the tune of 969,000 metric tons. This year, why are they projecting the same 850? Why are they moving forward? Why are they taking us back? Ask them. In the budget, he stated that the projection for this year is 850,000. Whilst we have already achieved 969,000. Why are we not going forward, but we are retreating? Why?
He's here, and I'm sure you guys are reacting to that.
At one time, we hit 1 million tons.
Right.
He specializes in agri. We hit 1 million tons. And since then, let him tell us the average output in the last 5 years. Right. Let him tell you, we have come down to about 700. At the point we're even hitting 600, we're under 700,000.
But his specific question to you is, you did 930,000 tons. Why are you doing 960,000 tons? Why are you doing 980,000 tons?
Of course, in the last year, we've seen cocoa prices. Right. It has decreased by about a third. From close to $3,000 per ton to about $2,000 per ton today.
Right.
Output things happen in the industry.
So you're saying there are some extraneous shocks.
It could be the world prices. But more importantly, I want to address the issue of revenue, which Honorable was saying. Right? It's true. Revenue targets. No government in the past 10 years in Ghana have been able to hit their targets. What is important this time, and what we have shown, is that despite us having a shortfall in revenue, we still maintain the discipline. So we cut on our expenditure, and we are still on track for our deficit. We are not going back to days when we spent about 10% more than, or 10% of our GDP more than we actually accrued in revenues. This is the difference. This is the discipline. This is the stability we have brought to the management of the Ghanaian economy.
I am running out of time. Thank you both for having shared your views.
Oh, you have not been fair to me. He has raised some important issues
that you want to rebut. But we will follow up with you. We will follow up with you. We will follow up with both of you and both sides of the House to get an understanding of exactly the policy programs that the government has put together in the 2018 budget. And so you can see the conversation is not going to end. It is going to continue. Both sides of the House have divided opinions about what the economy has performance of the economy over the last couple of months. They have divided opinions about some of the programs that have been rolled out. They again have divided opinions about the possible expectations for 2018, with a minority making allegations and claims that the government has not been, if you like, for the want of a better word, truthful to the disclosure of numbers about the macro economy towards the end of 2017, and rather using values that end somewhere in September. But one will ask whether or not these values in themselves are available for us to use them as a basis for making further projections into 2018. They are again questioning the ability of the government to raise the required revenues that will be needed to prosecute the government's programs for the coming fiscal period. And so this divided perspectives and opinions we have in the House will continue as we are here live, bringing you updates and follow-up conversations with members of Parliament and experts on their perspective and views as far as the budget that has been presented by the Finance Minister is concerned, and what private sector participants or private sector players should be expecting. And we will be getting some other members of Parliament. I see former Education Minister and in the person of Dr. Ekospi-Gabra, who also happened to have been the Trade Minister, who will be joining me shortly to understand some of the dynamics and the propositions that the government has made as far as the promises for the recovery of industry is concerned. Before they join me, we'll take a quick breather, and then we'll be back to bring you the conversation with these members of Parliament regarding the industrial sector of the Ghanaian economy.
Thank you very much, Patrick Stevenson. You're back here. We're live from our Platinum Studios here in Accra, and we're live on DSTV channel 361. I'm going to go straight back into your messages that you have been sending. Don't forget the WhatsApp number is 050320 3141. And these are WhatsApp messages. I'm really disappointed. I can't even talk again. This is from Justice Kofi Jomeko from Ho. What exactly he's disappointed in or about, I have no idea, but I guess about the budget. This one says, the last budget was Asempa. What will this be? Well, you've been told it's the Ejuma budget, and that was from Samuel. They have not fulfilled even one promise in their first budget, but always making noise and throwing dust into our eyes. They're just in their campaign mood instead of governance. It's bad to know we have no constitution and nothing is moving. And this is from the NPP, Samuel Tego. We are going to be bringing you more of that. We'll be crossing over to Parliament shortly. But there was an assurance to the unposted nurses some months ago, but we hear nothing. It might be 419. This is from Desmond in Koko. Abdul Basic Zongo says, good morning. I'm happy this morning because I'm waiting to hear the good news. I hope it was good enough for you. And that was the Ejuma budget. Let's cross over to Parliament. Patrick Stevenson is standing by.
Utility tariffs can come down for industries in comparison to residential customers next year. That will be in the right direction, if that can happen. If they can give relief to particular companies and not based on political affiliation, because you know there are already ambassadors and others talking that they only want to give jobs and support to their own people. So when they say that they have 100 million cedis for stimulus package or for supporting industries that are in distress. Right. The danger is that often they only select those that are affiliated with them. But if they can be transparent about the process by which industries can apply for particular reliefs and particular support, then that will make it open to any company to apply irrespective of their political affiliation. But more importantly is the financial structure that supports the industry. Right. Agricultural Development Bank was established in the 1960s. So was the National Investment Bank. We now hear today that this government is trying to establish another state bank called maybe a Ghana Development Bank or something.
Ghana Development Bank, yes.
What is the Ghana Commercial Bank doing or not doing that the Ghana Development Bank is supposed to come and do?
Maybe that bank will augment the efforts of the Export
Development Bank. There are over 30 commercial banks in Ghana, too many for one small country like Ghana. Everybody knows that. South Africa has only 4 such banks, and many big countries have much fewer than 10 big banks. Even in Nigeria, they're consolidating the banking sector. But the point is that what is the Export Development Agricultural Investment Fund, which was converted to the Export-Import Bank, doing or not doing that the Ghana Development Bank is coming to do? If the bank is supposed to help with production and therefore productivity, rather than with import and exports, then such banks should not be universal banks. The licenses should limit them to production-related activity. And I think any good government can look at the laws that support or brought in the National Investment Bank and the Agricultural Investment Bank and take us back to those systems that compel the banks to fund agriculture and industry. If you ask Agricultural Development Bank or any bank which claims to support agriculture today about their agricultural portfolio, they will show you loans to import chicken, to import meat, or to import flour or rice.
They are not supporting
agricultural financing. Agricultural finance must go to production, must go to a farmer to clear his land, to acquire a tractor, to buy seeds and to plant, to harvest, to have a warehouse, to store the goods, to process the goods, etc.
But what about those who argue that that sort of value chain approach to banking the agricultural sector poses a lot of risk? So, for example, if you get a development bank that may not have the same sort of risk assessment for agricultural-related businesses like you'd have for the commercial banks, then that's something that's in the right direction.
Not at all.
It's not a credible argument to you.
For a long time, the biggest bank in the world, and still one of the biggest, was Crédit Agricole of France.
Right.
I used to be an advisor to Crédit Agricole of France in the 1970s and 80s when I was working in the United States. And that is a farmers' cooperative. And the farmers put their money into this bank, and the bank became the biggest. And it was lending to agriculture, the entire value chain. Agriculture is a value chain business. So if you don't think of it from a value chain point of view, you are going to just prevent the farmer from really generating the full. And I'm a farmer anyway.
Right.
I'm not speaking as a non-looker. I've been in the oil palm cashew, mango, pineapple business, pineapple for over 20 years. I know the problems in that sector, and this government is not trying to solve these problems. They are going to create 100,000 jobs for new graduates.
Yes.
Under the Kufuor administration, they asked 1 million Ghanaians to come and register for them to get jobs. Even 10 or 20 or 100 did not get jobs.
Right.
So Ghanaians must remember the practices, the promises, the capacity to promise and deliver of the MPP administration. This is not the first time we are working with them, and our fear is that they will promise and not deliver.
Now, because you have occupied the portfolio of education, I'm going to throw an education question to you. So they make a proposition that they will establish a voluntary education fund that is supposed to raise required revenues needed to support investment in the educational sector. Do you think this is a good strategy?
The Ghana Education Trust Fund already has in its law the capacity to do that. And in 2002, I made a proposal to the Ghana Education Trust Fund when we were in opposition and they were in government for me to come and help them to realize that particular clause in the GET Fund law. They declined, even though they told me after a competitive bidding process that I had the best proposal out of about 10 companies that had made proposals to them. But because as an NDC person, I could not be given an assignment which did not require them to pay me anything. I was going to generate extra money for them and take a percentage of the revenue I generated. They said no. So if there's the GET Fund law that they want to use to do that, fine. But if they're going to create a separate additional bureaucracy under the presidency so that the 400 V8 four-wheel drive cars that went to a funeral recently in Kumasi, they can add more four-wheel drives to the government's fleet of vehicles, and I'm sorry, I wouldn't go in that direction. They should have been asking the private sector, non-governmental organizations, and social enterprise institutions to help in creating these additional jobs for graduates through internships, through attachments, through mentorships and other programs, but not for another bureaucracy to be established to help graduates find jobs. That won't work.
Now, my final question to you may not be related to the budget. The general belief by some observers of the political landscape in Ghana is that there's a possibility the NDC may not come back to power in 2020 because of the sort of social programs that we are seeing this government put together. What's your assessment of that?
No, some of the social programs will have partial degrees of success. Some will fail completely, and some will never take off. So by 2019, 2020, we'll be able to assess exactly how far they've gone. But yes, they've been trying hard to enter into the social democratic space by looking for what you might call low-hanging fruits where they can support people with school feeding program. And look at the budget for school feeding under the free so-called SHS, which is free from one education. 3 cedis and 30 pesos, I think, is what they're asking headmasters, headmistresses, and matrons to perform magic to feed very strong, growing, able-bodied young men and women aged between, let's say, 13 and 20 who are in senior high school. 3 cedis, 30 pesos, meaning 1 cedi, 10 pesos per meal, per student, per day. How many parents are out there who believe they can manage such a budget in their own households? So how do we expect the headmasters and mistresses to do that? So it's one thing to promise the free senior high school, but when you start, managing and micromanaging the details, then you find horrendous stories. 177 million cedis was paid recently to just that administrative part of floating a bond, for which 700 million cedis was obtained. So 25% of the whole bond exercise went to administrative costs. 25%, 80 million cedis for administration. 700,000 cedis for legal fees. When you have an attorney general department whose lawyers feel they are grossly underpaid, and many of them are trying to leave to go to the private sector or to go to the bench, you won't pay those lawyers in the attorney general department. You ask private lawyers to come and charge 700,000 cedis. That is the MPP government for you.
Now, my final question, which is usually the elephant in the room when the name Dr. Ecospio Gabra is mentioned.
So it's an umbrella then. It's an umbrella in the room, not an elephant.
The umbrella in the room, that's a good one. Now, it's open secret that you may be contesting for the flag bearer of the NDC come 2020. Now, you have a case where 10 regional chairmen appear to have endorsed somewhat the ex-president in the person of Mr. John Dramani Mahama. What do you make of that going into 2020?
Well, I think the party has a responsibility to ensure that there's a level playing field where party executives at all levels may have their personal preferences, but obey the rules of the game and follow the constitution of the party, which frowns on any elected party officer endorsing any candidate at any level.
Right.
Because the objective is to allow the members of the party to freely choose who their leaders shall be at the branch level, at the constituency level, at the regional level, at the national level. So any group of people who go and sign any document using their party positions are only endangering their own positions in the party. If they intend to be re-elected, many of them have already lost a lot of votes in their respective regions.
Right.
If they don't want to stand again, and this is just a way to get out and get somebody to incentivize them or compensate them, then that's their business. But
So you are not bothered by that at all?
I don't think so, no.
Dr. Akosua-Gabra, thank you very much for sharing these insights with us. And we'll continue to monitor developments. If there's anything that we need clarity on, we'll definitely come back to you to get your insights.
Always at your
these.
service, on the service of the people of Ghana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akosua-Gabra. Well, we have been speaking to Dr. Akosua-Gabra, who has been sharing his insights on developments that have been occurring in the industrial and the education sectors of the Ghanaian economy. And he has also been telling us about his own ideas and what has been happening within the NDC as a political party as far as his aspirations for 2020 is concerned. But broadly, he has himself and a few other members you have on the minority side appear to be at dissonance to the proposition or the policy propositions that the government has made as far as budget 2018 is concerned, which has been christened putting Ghana back to work. And so in the view of the government, there are sweet spots and there are opportunities for the industrial sector of this country to take the opportunities that they are presented in the budget. And so if you operate either in industry, in agribusiness, in the services sector, well, the government believes that there's a lot that is in the budget for you. We'll continue to follow these developments here at the floor of Parliament Live, and we'll bring you further perspectives from members and experts who have been monitoring the Ghanaian economy as far as its development over the last couple of years is concerned. Now, before we take leave of you, I'll just give you a synopsis of some of the major highlights of the presentation that the finance minister has made. Well, for 2018, the projections for government revenue have been estimated as 51 billion Ghana cedis. The government forecast or projects to spend about 62 billion Ghana cedis. As we have heard, as far as the fiscal results for 2017 are concerned, the government has had a shortfall of about 9.6% in mobilizing revenue, but they have broadly been able to keep that of the expenditure within check. This means that for 2018, the budget deficit that the government intends to have is about 10 billion cedis. And when you compare that to what we had for 2017, there's a decrease of about 2 billion Ghana cedis, because of course what we had for 2017 was about 12 billion. Again, broad economic growth is projected moderately at about 6.8%. Inflation is targeted at about 8.9%. But over the medium term, the government still expects to be operating within the 8 plus or minus 2 bandwidth. As far as sectoral growth is concerned, the agricultural sector is expected to grow by 4.5%, industry 9.4%, and services 6% flat. And so these are the expectations by the government as far as the broader macro of the Ghanaian economy is concerned. They have some very interesting programs that may not have been things that we would have heard as far as previous budgets are concerned. The government is mooting the idea of establishing a national development bank that is supposed to support industry-related activities and investments in areas like agriculture. There's a proposition of a 400 million Ghana cedis fund that is also supposed to be supporting industrial sector. There's a further proposition that should be going to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to review downwards some of the tariffs that industrial and commercial as well as individual households pay for the supply of power. And so that is something that we will be monitoring here at GH1 TV, and we'll be bringing you updates on that. Again, there's a further revision by the government to peg the income tax to the minimum wage, and the idea is that they want to protect people that are earning minimum wage. We had that explanation coming from Honorable Kweku Kwarteng. And so these are some of the rather interesting perspectives that the budget for 2018 brings to bear. What has been interesting to the members of the minority, which Honorable Kesela Tuforse mentioned, was the fact that the government was expected to have been terminating the fiscal stabilization levy as well as the import levies. But that didn't happen as far as the budget was concerned. There's a further extension of that to 2019. And so these are coming to you live from the floor of Parliament here in Accra. And this has been GH1 TV, bringing you the updates as far as the presentation of the budget live from Parliament is concerned.
Catch Miss World live on GH1 TV this Saturday, 18 November at 11:30 a.m. and repeated on Sunday at 8 p.m.
Beverages Limited, Kakai 777 bitters.
Mepensa papa bia no ma no bi na she mu ma Ghana ne China no bi na nkwani